You are live.
Thank you. Good morning, everyone. I'd like to call the Finance Committee meeting for October 13th to order. With that, I would ask Rachel to please do a roll call.
Thank you. Good morning. Regent Chair Balducci,
Here.
Madam Chair Ryan, here. Regent Gued,
Here.
Regent Santiago, absence is noted. Regent Stewart, absence is noted. And Regent Yang.
Here.
Thank you. And a welcome to our ex officio, Professor Blitz. Welcome. Thank you. We have a quorum.
Thank you. We have a quorum. Before we move on to the actual voting on issues, et cetera, I just would like to welcome our new board members, and in particular finance members, Ted Yang and Marty Guay. Welcome to the Finance Committee. Look forward to working with you. We have a great team, and I'm sure you'll be a great addition to it. So thank you very much for also being on the board, but more importantly on the Finance Committee. Thank you both. With that, I would ask that for the minutes, acceptance of the minutes of the 13th meeting, is there a motion to accept those minutes?
Move.
So moved. I'll second that. Any discussion on the minutes of
Yes.
David?
have some discussion.
You have a comment you'd like to make on those minutes? Yes.
The minutes do include my comments on the June resolution that this committee passed. The resolution entitled Additional Actions to Resolve Current and Future Budget Shortfalls. And I hope that we're able to clarify at this meeting the confusion which has resulted from that resolution, in particular, the reference to a comprehensive academic program and student support review. As I noted in the comments which I submitted, which are included in the minutes for this for the last meeting, there is a significant problem in terms of what exactly is meant by that. Academic program review, as we know, is done at the institution level. It is a process done by program every 5 to 7 years, and it's quite an extensive review. It's not something that you do between a resolution in the summer and an autumn deadline. So it's not that. It's sometimes now being called academic program planning, but that also is something done independently at each of the institutions, members of the system, and again, cannot be done on short notice. I've called it academic program accounting, because apparently the model, at least what is called the Western model, simply takes the number of majors, multiplies that by their tuition and fees, and subtracts from that the cost of the faculty, full-time and part-time, giving an inadequate representation of what is actually going on. There's a second model, the so-called CCSU model, which does it by department, takes into account majors, minors, general education, and includes in the revenue side a proportion of the residents' fees that have been paid. But that too is inadequate. And in fact, if you compare the two, as I mentioned at the last board meeting, you get extremely different numbers for a given department. I mentioned my own. You can have a $1.2 million deficit using the so-called Western model, and a $1.2 million surplus using the CCSU model. But in any case, it's meaningless, because departments at the CSUs are not cost centers. And that's not how we do academic planning, and it's not how we do academic program review. Consequently, there's a lot of confusion and an erosion, a significant erosion of confidence in the ability of the board and its system office to understand what is going on at the constituent institutions. Myself and Kalina Sisenker, I think, have made a more than significant effort to try to reestablish a relationship of confidence and trust, especially taking into account that there is new leadership at the board, new leadership at the system, new members of the board, and so forth. But from what I can tell, the net effect of the resolution from June, as approved by the board, is to erode and to continue a kind of relationship that we saw with the previous administration, and has resulted in the crisis of confidence that we have known. Secondly, I want to add this as a further consideration. I have yet to see the properly amended version of that resolution. Inadequate as that resolution was, there were amendments made, and Rich Balducci will recall because he was sitting next to me and he made them, some of which were included in the minutes of the meeting that were submitted to the next board meeting. But I've yet to see, and I don't see in this agenda package, the true copy of the motion as amended. There was some initial confusion as to whether there was a question of the $4 million to be removed from reserves that was not going to be used for the system study, or rather for remediation measures, and those are two different things. So again, confusion and an inadequate understanding of what is going on at the local level, at the institutions which are members of the system. And I just want to draw your attention to that. I think it's a significant problem. It may well be that we're going to address this later on in the meeting, but for the moment, I want to indicate a strong attitude of dissatisfaction at the local level of the various institutions and at the level of the FAC for the resolution, which is inadequate, improperly formulated, includes 4 different things, and is not yet available in a true copy. Thank you.
Thank you, David. Appreciate, as always, your comments. Don't always agree with them, but appreciate your comments, as you know. First of all, we're not talking about academic program review, which you're absolutely correct on, takes 5-6 years to do. What we're talking about doing, to my understanding, and I believe I'm correct on this, and I've talked to Dr. Blanchard about it, is what we're talking about doing is having the provosts sit with faculty and staff or whoever is interested in this and coming up with some ideas as to how we can come to a resolution that works. We're not talking about doing a review of the entire system. I don't plan on, by the way, going on and making any major changes, but we have Dr. Blanchard here right now, and one of the things that we're going to do is take a look at some of your comments about the amendment as we move forward. I know he'll take a look at that, and we'll try to make certain that we either clarify, add, or delete as necessary before we go any further, David. But I don't think we need to move on anything but the resolution that we have before us at this time, and that's where I'd like to go with this, not dismissing your comments, David, okay?
That's fine.
Okay. So now that we've gotten that, any other comments by members of the Finance Committee? If not, then I would ask for a motion for acceptance of the minutes of the previous September 13th meeting. Thank you very much, President, for your motion. I would second that motion. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Is she here? Is she can you all hear?
Yeah, I can hear. I'm going to abstain because I wasn't in that meeting.
Correct, absolutely correct. President?
Same for me. This is Ted.
Dan?
Ted is here.
Speaking. I'm sorry. I asked for, and President Ryan, you said yes.
Yes.
I said yes. Significant. All those opposed? Minutes are accepted as read. I would think that, I think you made a couple of points, David. We'll be looking forward and discussing it as we move forward. But now to get to the actual action item of today's meeting. The only action item is discounted tuition rates for strategic enrollment initiatives. We've done this piecemeal a couple of times already. We did it for Western so that they could have access to New York and New Jersey. Then we moved on. I can't remember the years, it's kind of all runs together, but we moved on to the addition of all of New England, et cetera, and any state that wished to take part in this program could take part in the program with our tuition as it is in-house, in-state tuition. What we're going to do today is expand that. What I'm going to do is ask Dr. Blanchard to give a brief commentary on that, and then we'll vote on the issue. So Dr. Blanchard, if I could just turn that over to you, I'd appreciate it.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Good morning, Regents. This proposal to expand our discounted tuition rate seeks to expand the institutional president's authorization to offer this discounted tuition rate to international students. Given our enrollment challenges and the challenges that our institutions face, the Chancellor wants to help them expand their markets and be competitive for new prospective students. As mentioned by the chair, there is precedent for such discounting. First, CSU is a member of the New England Board of Higher Education. We use the term NEVI, the acronym NEVI. This rate, the NEVI rate, is offered at a rate of 50% greater than the in-state rate when it was first established. So when we raise the in-state rate, we raise the NEVI rate. So it has a relationship that is still higher than the in-state rate. Second, in December 2020, the BOR gave institutional presidents the discretionary authority to offer this rate to students from New York and New Jersey, as just mentioned by the chairman. Third, when the BOR adopted the FY23 and FY24 tuition and fee schedules, you granted authorization to the universities and to Charter Oak State College to offer discounted tuition rates to students from all states outside of Connecticut. The staff report in your packet presents evidence of increasing applications from and recruitment of international students by U.S. colleges and universities. My colleague, System Provost Rai Kathuria, has relationships in India where he believes he can establish a pipeline of students coming to Connecticut State colleges and universities. He is here with me in case you have any questions. Mr. Chairman, that is my report and our proposal.
Thank you. Any comments by members of the committee? Hopefully, in a positive vein, it will help us from certainly an economic standpoint, bringing in more students to attend our universities. And that's the main thrust, I believe, all this. I think Rai is really concerned and with raising more money, as Dr. Blanchard, and this may be helpful to us. The worst thing that happens that I could see is that nothing happens, but I'm betting that something will happen, or and that we're not wasting our time and energy on this. Any other comments before we take a vote on this?
I think it's a great idea. I think this is exactly what we should be doing.
Thank you, Marty. Appreciate that comment. Further? Okay, all those, yes, Chairman Ryan?
Yes, I just wanted to share very quickly the experience that I've observed. One of the high schools in the northwest corner is doing this with their high school students, and it has tremendously increased not only their enrollment, but also their financial situation. So it's a positive, it's a win-win.
Thank you, Chairman Ryan.
Welcome.
Any other comments? Okay, is there a motion to accept this?
Motion to accept?
Marty, is that who I heard? Yes, thank you very much for this motion to accept. Chairman Ryan, would you second this?
Yes, I will.
All those in favor, signify by saying aye. Aye, opposed?
Aye.
Nay. Motion passes. Thank you very much for that. Before we adjourn, there'll be some comments made at the board meeting, but since this is the finance committee, very important committee, as all committees are, but of course, I'm a little bit prejudiced to this committee. I'm going to ask Dr. Blanchard to make a couple of comments. Well, he will do a more expanded piece at the board meeting, but I think it's important that he give a little bit of a discussion right now on his discussion with chairs of appropriations, et cetera. With that, I'll turn it over to you, Dr. Blanchard.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So the Chancellor and I have been meeting with various state leaders to help them understand the challenges we have in addressing the large shortfall that we are projecting in FY25. FY24, we've been taking a great deal of mitigation steps to solve FY24, and we are confident that we will balance the budgets across all of our institutions in FY24. We are projecting, however, $140 million deficit in FY25, which will require substantial effort. So the Chancellor and I have met with the co-chairs of the Appropriations Committee, Kathy Austin and Tony Walker. That was a very good meeting. We met them at the LOB. It was a very good meeting. What we did was walk them through the various pieces that contributed to that. Mostly the calculation of the fringe cost and the swap that OPM implemented for higher education. That has created a big problem for us. And so we've been trying to communicate that both to the appropriations chairs, to the governor, as well as to the Speaker of the House. And so we continue with these meetings. We've had 2 meetings now on this topic with the Office of Policy and Management, as you know, the governor's budget office. The first meeting was with the secretary and his group to let him be aware of our challenges. It was quite pro forma. Our goal, though, in that meeting was to have a second meeting with the staff to really roll up our sleeves to try to compare the way we calculate this fringe cost swap. We had that meeting. We did not come to an agreement. We still have some differences. I'll report the nature of those differences at the full board meeting. All of that is to say, we're trying to help people understand why we have the large projected deficits that we have in FY25. Mitigation across our system continues. We've already received first drafts of the campus level mitigation plans, the institutional level mitigation plans that we are continuing to work with. At least a couple of institutions, we're sharpening our pencils to try to work with them. This does not necessarily at the moment implicate the academic program planning that Professor Blitz mentioned. That is an ongoing process taking place at the institutional and campus levels, and eventually will help inform steps that we take going forward. So with that, I'll stop, Mr. Chairman. Let the regents know that we will have more to report, but for what it's worth, I showed the chairman where we are to date. He seemed pleased with that preliminary update. You will have a formal and full update at the next full board meeting. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, and I did want to make sure as members of the committee, you have at least an edge on everybody else since it does, et cetera. So with that, we have no other business to come before us. David, yes.
I would like to make a comment, as is apparently my role at this committee. And I do appreciate Lloyd Blanchard's mini presentation or proto presentation. And I think it's important that be fully discussed at the next board meeting. But my question to Lloyd Blanchard is, you mentioned the FY25 projected deficit of 146 million. Is that correct?
Yes.
That's correct.
All right. However, it seems to me that those numbers need to be updated. And one of the problems that we've had is that the numbers on the deficit have changed from month to month. And in particular, I can't talk about what's going on at the other institutions, but I certainly can talk about what's going on at mine, since I am the Faculty Advisory Committee representative from my institution to the FAC, in addition to being, at this point, the Vice Chair of the FAC itself. And the numbers that were given in June were for CCSU, 13.5 million surplus for FY24, a $4.7 million deficit for FY25. And I'll talk about that because those are not the numbers which are now currently being projected and which we have discussed at some length as part of whatever the APR process may be, or planning process, as the case may be. And we have as the numbers, I have a number of $2.1 million surplus for FY25. And the most recent numbers that I have, and that comes from last week, are a $5.9 million surplus for FY25. That changes the overall numbers. I'm sorry, for FY25. Those changes at those numbers. And we need to have accurate numbers reflecting what is actually going on at the various institutions as determined by their budget offices and then forwarded to the system office. So I am concerned that we tend to present in a more negative light than is actually the case what is happening because we are using outdated numbers. I'm also concerned by the FY26 projection because it seems to me that's just speculation. Since we don't know exactly what the mitigation measures are going to be adopted as of FY24, clearly the FY26 is going to depend upon the changes made in FY24 and FY25. But I'm going to limit myself to the FY25 numbers and ask that the up-to-date numbers be retrieved from the constituent institutions. CSU, the system is supposed to function, and I think can only function properly as a system of systems. And in all those cases, we need to be up to date as to what is going on at the systems themselves, which are part of the system of system. That is to say, the constituent units, and in this particular case, the CSU universities. Thank you.
Thank you, David.
May I respond? Mr.
Absolutely.
Chairman?
Thank you.
Thank you for that comment, Professor Blitz. I will say that we regularly work with the CFOs at the institutional level with their projections, and they are projections. And we know that projections change each month based on changes in the situation they face, whether they see that their fringe costs are coming in lower with each different pay period, whether they see that revenues are coming in higher or lower with each semester. So numbers change all the time. One of the things I have to be careful of, Professor Blitz, as the Chief Financial Officer, is to determine when do we share changed numbers. Because if I changed our projections every month, made those numbers public, it would be very confusing as to what the true numbers are. I can't speak to what happened in the past, but I will speak to what we will do going forward, which is to publish a set of numbers that may be old a month later, but we won't change that set of numbers until it's meaningful to do so. And by meaningful to do so means we will come into the session here in the spring, and we don't know what the General Assembly will do, but we will be working closely with them to help them understand what we are doing to mitigate the deficit. We will help them understand the extent to which our projections have changed, and we will help them understand how far we can go short of implicating collective bargaining adjustments. So thank you for your comment. I'd be happy to continue our conversations, Professor Blitz, so that you understand where we are at any given time. But rest assured, my colleague Melantina is in daily contact with the financial professionals at the campus and institutional levels. We know what their current projections are. We are just careful to put new projections out every time we get new projections. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for that
David,
comment.
Go
For
ahead.
that response. My only point is the following. It makes a big difference in terms of academic program planning if one is projecting a deficit for a particular year, such as FY25, or a surplus. And those numbers do have to be up to date because that's going to also affect the mitigation plan.
Thank you.
I agree with that, David. Absolutely agree. No further discussion. I would entertain a motion to adjourn. Is there a motion? Thank you, Chairman Ryan. Second.
Second.
Thank you very much, Marty. All those in favor, signify by saying aye. Aye.
Aye.
Thank you very much for coming. Thank you for the meeting.